Look, I get it. A lot of you out there don't actually trust 5.56, but M855 is one of the best entry rounds in Escape from Tarkov, simply because it's fired out of this beautiful gun, the ADAR. When you're starting out, you don't really need to do too much to it, and it will carry you through the early to mid game. And especially once you start to get a bit of money and a bit of attachments, this gun can be absolutely nutty. So stick around and find out how to mod this absolute monster. Before we get into the video, I just want to remind you that I do stream on Twitch. The link for that will be featured down in the description below or in the pinned comment. If you guys have any questions about any of the videos you've seen recently, or simply just want to come say hello. So in 12.9, the trade for the ADAR changed, unfortunately. It used to be 1 rec battery and it's now 1 rec battery and 2 chainlets. The value of these items is pretty much the same value that you can purchase it from Skier. Now, obviously guys, if you have the items, it's nice to just do that trade, but you can buy it on the flea market for less than the value of the items. That being said, if you do keep a keen eye out and you get the chainlets under 10k, same with the rec battery as well, you may be able to sneak an ADAR for about 28,000 rubles. So the first build here today, we're going to be talking about the Budget Boy. Now the Budget Boy doesn't really need too much. The first thing you want to do is recommend buying something like the EOTech, or one of my personal favorites, the Valday 1P87, as the scope has high enough height overboard that you can actually see past the gas block, which may be an issue with some scopes. However, I would recommend switching the gas block to the MK12 because you can purchase it from mechanic level 1 and it also reduces your recoil and increases your ergo. For the compensator, you have plenty of different choices. You have something like the Vendetta Precision VP09, which is actually really good statistics. So I'm actually going to be recommending the PWS CQB 5.56x45 muzzle brake here today. But this build has been really good to me in the early game and did a lot of my leveling with a gun similar to this. And the best part is it only costs you about 57,000 rubles. That's not including the ammo and the mag. That is incredibly good for a semi-automatic, which you don't really have to control that recoil too much. If we take it out to the range, however, you're going to notice that reset time is not too great. However, if I slow it down, you can see that the distance between the shot and then the muzzle climb is why you spend that extra money. And if you spam it, it's actually quite accurate. You can see I got pretty much every shot on target while clicking as fast as I can. But in all honesty, spending a little bit of extra money never hurt anyone. Something like the Remington Arms handguard here is actually going to go a long way in reducing that recoil. Now you can put the Remington RAHG 4-inch guide. With grip choices, you have plenty of different options. The first one would obviously be the Magpul RVG, one of the best in slot grips here. However, it's a little bit more expensive than the Magpul AFG grip, which is only 1 ergo worse. And I would actually recommend this grip here today. If you're really struggling on cash, however, you can get the Zenit RK5 or the UVG Tactical. Now this gun is going to set you back with the AVG grip here and while being loud for about 72,000 rubles. Now this gun is actually incredibly good, and if we have a look at the comparison between the 57,000 ruble and the 72,000 ruble variant, we'll definitely start to notice some of the differences here. Now if I slow down the muzzle climb, I want you to pay attention to the left one here and just how much better it is in terms of distance. There is almost a foot less recoil there in some of the shots. To be completely honest with you though, guys, I would be using the KAC QDC compensator with the KAC QDSS suppressor here. But I would always, and I mean always, recommend suppressing the ADAR. That's really where its strength lies, as the gun is incredibly loud and allows you to snipe people without them having a clue where you are. Now we're going to be stepping up the handguard here to the URX 3.1 handguard. Now this handguard is amazing, and a few reasons why. Now, it's actually better in terms of ergonomics for a few simple reasons. The first one is the fact that it can have these little side stoppers. You can use the KAC stopper, but I wouldn't recommend it. We are going to be jumping straight back into the Magpul AVG grip here, or the AFG, and we're going for the black or the tan, whatever the aesthetic you want to have. Now, the best part about this handguard is you can get these long panels for the side of it, which actually add 3 ergo per panel. These stop you from adding lasers in this area, but it's actually really worth it because it boosts the hell out of the ergo here, which is actually really nice. Now for the pistol grip, we are going to be removing the wood stock and changing up the pistol grip. Now it really just depends on how much money you have and what level your traders are. If you are max Peacekeeper, I would always recommend the Graal S, as this thing is incredible on stats. However, if you're trying to go for a more ergo feel, you can go for something like the Hue Overmold Rubber Grip Black, or maybe the FDE if you just want that full FDE experience. You can make some really attractive looking guns with this build as well, which is the part of the reason that I'm in love with the 8R right now. Alright, so stocks are where the juice lies and where some of that most of the recoil reduction comes from. Really interesting enough, the Mo carbine is one of the best stocks in the game, and if you get the FDE or some of the green or the OD variants here, you're going to notice that sometimes they're cheaper on the flea market, so make sure you do some shopping around. But we are going to be recommending the Chris Defiance DS stock here today, as it's both cheap and also has incredible stats. Now this entire gun's going to set you back 95,000 rubles, which is actually incredible. That is including the suppressor, which is actually pretty damn phenomenal. Now this gun is definitely pretty awesome, but one thing I would like to point out to you guys is when you have a gun this good on an 8R, it's really good for sniping, but sometimes when people push you, that 5.56 can feel pretty weak. So what you can do is you can go out and you can buy a lower receiver for the M4 and basically put this on the bottom of this build. Now the best part about this is if you do it this way, you can actually save a lot of money. In fact, this mid-tier M4 build, once you've changed to the lower receiver, will only set you back about 115,000 rubles, which is actually incredibly good for an M4 of this caliber. Obviously, you can do all your tasks if you need to, but basically this gun gives you the option between full auto and semi, which sometimes is really nice in those CQB fights. And let's have a look at it out on the range here today. You can see there's a bit of climb at first, but then it evens out and becomes very usable. If we compare this to the exact same build, but in the 8R variant, and one of my personal favorites, this thing with like an L-can is amazing for tapping heads. You're going to notice when it's in that single fire, you can definitely get a little bit more control. Not only is the recoil slightly lower, but what you will be noticing is when you tap that recoil, it doesn't actually climb completely over the target. You can definitely get way more shots on target when tapping as fast as you can. Alright, so this next build is incredibly stupid, but we're starting off with the 100 Ergo 8R. The first thing we're going to be doing is changing the upper receiver to the Novesh Gen 3, and we're also going to be changing the charging handle, changing the buffer tube over to the SI Advanced buffer tube. And removing the wooden grip, we are going to be changing the pistol grip here today to the Graal S, as well as the stock we are going to be going with the Fab Defense GL, as it has the highest amount of Ergo out of any of the stocks. So after we slapped on the pistol grip and the stock, we are going to be choosing a barrel length here today. We're going to be sticking with the 260mm. For the gas block, we're going to be sticking with the MK12, and we're going to go ahead and change the handguard to the URX. Make sure you grab the short length one here, the 8-incher, as this thing will not fit with any others. You could also use the Stinger Viper, which is slightly better here in terms of ergo. And once again, we're going to be changing the guide and adding the Fortis shift grip, as it's one of the best grips in the game in my opinion. We're going to go ahead and put both of the KAC rails on both sides, as they actually add the ergo to the gun. And for the suppressor here, we're going to be choosing the SF3P here today, the Surefire. Basically, on the end of that, we're going to be choosing the SOCOM Mini, as it's both low ergo reduction and it's also incredibly light. This allows us to keep the weight of this gun down and also the ergo up. To boost that ergo just a little bit further here today, we're going to be adding iron sights to both the back and the front. Now, once again, there's nothing stopping you from turning this into an M4 and using it, but you can notice the stamina drain is actually quite low compared to a lot of other guns, and the ADS time is simply just disgustingly quick. And this gun is hands down one of my favorite builds in the game right now. This thing is stupidly fun to use in CQB maps, especially when you're running around on factory, etc. Once again, I wanted to point out you could obviously switch that lower and put this on an M4 and just go crazy up in CQB, and obviously that choice is yours. Hey guys, that's it for this build guide. If you enjoyed this and want to see more of this type of video in the future, feel free to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching to the very end. It really means a lot to me. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.